Hello YouTube, this is AndrewTheRed. So this is going to be my library. This section is sort of the miscellaneous. It's got political, religious, kind of I don't know. It's sort of miscellaneous books anyway. So I'll get started. So here it's a book called "Man, the State, and War" by Waltz. I think this one's got all kinds of pen on it. I think I picked it up from a used bookstore. 1959. Yep, 1954, and then this one's a 59. So it says, what are the major causes of war? So that's what this book's about. And the subtitle is called says a theoretical analysis. So he's actually bringing in, it says here, St. Augustine, Hobbes, Kant, Rousseau, Spinoza, to I guess come up with a theory of those three elements and how they're connected, how they bring about each other. Let's say how the man brings about the state, brings about war, so to speak. Okay, here's a book by Ayn Rand called Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. So this is a nice book. I do like Rand's work, so I do have quite a few of her works, which you'll see in different sections throughout. But I particularly like her take on capitalism because I think the public has a gross misconception of what capitalism actually is. Like they think we have capitalism today. Ridiculous. Okay, this is one I actually picked up quite recently. Neil Postman. So I have one of his other books that talks about education, but this one I had to pick up because I think it was $1. Let me see. Oh, it was $2. Called "Amusing Ourselves to Death." So this is about this is about people. This is about entertainment, let's say, and television. So that I guess his take on those things and how much they contribute to life in these times. So that one, I have not read that one yet. I just got it pretty recently. Oh, people are gonna like this one. Ron Paul, A Foreign Policy of Freedom. So I've read this one all the way through, maybe 2 years ago or so. This is excellent, and it documents basically his minutes of being in Congress since, let me see here, since the 60s, no, 70s, since 1976 until, I don't know, 2006. 30 years of Ron Paul basically warning that the U.S. is going to have foreign policy problems. So it's interesting. It's I don't know if it's ironic. It's really interesting to read. It's 30 years of a person predicting. I don't know. I wouldn't say predicting the future, but basically his concerns were left alone for 30 years. So it's pretty interesting. Here's a book, sort of on economics, but it's sort of, maybe this is sort of philosophy. Oh well, it's mostly economics. So Free to Choose. This is by Milton Friedman, of course, Nobel Prize winner in economics. So this is basically about choice in economics, choice in ethics, and he makes I've read this one fully. He makes a great case for choice being within a person's life, and such as in the free market. And he also goes into education too, so that was an interesting thing to read for me as well. What's wrong with our schools? He talks about vouchers as well. His big idea for education. He did a series on, it must have been on TV, but you can also get it off of like a torrent or whatever. He did a series called Free to Choose. I think it's 20 episodes, And he talks about the schools as well. And his idea was to put vouchers in so parents could choose, rather than the state just spending money and then, oh, your child has to go to the nearest public school or whatever. He advocated He advocated the right for parents to choose the school and to take their tax money that normally would have went right to the state for their child's school, the right to choose what school they go to and therefore where their money goes. So that was his point or purpose for that. Okay, here's a book that I picked up, I guess for $6. The Birth of the Nazis, how the Freikorps blazed a trail for Hitler. So this is what? I guess I haven't been doing the years. This is by Nigel Jones. This is first published 87, revised in 2004. So that's that one. Here's another one kind of like that one. This one's on misogyny, the world's oldest prejudice. So misogyny is hatred of women, those who don't know. And when was this one published? This one should be fairly new, 2006. So I picked it up. Okay, here's a more political book. So this is by Gardner, The Trouble with Canada Still. So I've read this one not too long ago, maybe 6 months ago. This one, this should be recent. This should be fairly recent. But this is a pretty good book, 2010. So this is a pretty long book, but it covers a lot of ground. I should read you the table of contents. There's some of them here. So where does it? Foreign aid, how much, to whom, and why. Radical feminism. He actually talks about feminism being a movement, since a lot of feminist studies are certainly state-funded. He talks about that their agenda is somewhat statist. So I thought that was sort of an interesting take. He talks about, of course, the Canadian health system. And I think he called it a multi-tier system. Multiculturalism. Yeah, so it was pretty interesting. It's a long book, but it covers a lot of stuff. So I thought it was pretty good. Okay, Libertarianism A Primer by Boaz. Let's see what year this was published. I have read this one, 1997. This is a pretty good book to start someone off on what libertarianism is. And I thought there was a chart at the front that I thought was pretty helpful. Maybe it was at the back. It's a chart at the back. It shows kind of your political landscape, and you can put yourself. You can find out kind of where you would seat yourself there. So on one side is economic freedom, and the other side is personal freedom. So if you're high on economic freedom, but low on personal freedom, then you're usually considered conservative. If you are high on personal freedom but low on economic freedom, you're usually called a liberal, or I should say modern liberal. And then if you're high for both, you want high economic freedom and high personal freedom, then you're libertarian. And if you want low to both, you are authoritarian. So. Okay, here's Hitchens. So this is one of two books I have on Hitchens. Letters to a Young Contrarian. Now, I was disappointed in this book. I thought this book was going to more be about how a person survives in a time in which their ideas are largely combated. But I didn't get it. This was 2001. I was disappointed. I read this book about a year ago, year and a half ago, and I was a little disappointed. Obviously, he's writing much like the Letters to a Young oh no, what's it called? No, I forget. It was in my mind, but I forget. There's another book. There's another more famous book called Letters to a Young something, and now I can't think of it. I thought it was about poetry or something. Anyways, so I think he takes the structure and then moves it into the Contrarian, because obviously Hitchens is a Contrarian, especially in the religious world. Steps on a lot of toes. But I was a little disappointed, so oh well. Okay, I have not touched this, as you can maybe you can't see, but it's still plastic wrapped from when I got it shipped. So this is obviously a book on economics. This is von Mises. This is basically the father of the Austrian school, and this book is called Socialism, an Economic and Sociological Analysis. I think if you are ever interested in getting into economics and you want to look at more the Austrian school as opposed to the Keynesian school, by the way, you should check out that rap video that's pretty popular, quite a few million hits. If you look at Hayek versus Keynes, there's a rap video on YouTube which is pretty good, very well done. There's two of them. There's one that talks more about their economics policies. So a lot of the little phrases that you hear, if you're unfamiliar with economics, then they might not make sense to you. But it's catchy. It's enjoyable to watch or to listen to, even if you didn't know what they were talking about. But the second video they did, whereas about a boxing ring, that one is more about the modern day. So that one's a good one for people who are inclined in economics. But they're both pretty good. But anyways, his most popular book among Mises is called Human Action, and that's actually mentioned in the first rap video about human action. So if you ever want to get into economics, I would suggest that you start with Human Action by von Mises. That's his Bible, I think. Okay, here's the other Hitchens books. The Portable Atheist. So this is a collection of writings by many authors. Hitchens has one in here, I think. But this is a collection by many different people writing about atheism. So I thought I read this a few years ago. Dawkins is in here as well. There's all kinds of stuff. There's actually some pieces from George Orwell, Salman Rushdie. He's a modern contemporary. There's Carl Sagan. He is a science person. The Demon Haunted World. I need to get that book. I've been looking for that one. Oh, there's Dan Dennett. I actually have one of Dan Dennett's books here. I'll get to in a minute. But anyways, this is a great. There's Stephen Weinberg. There's Sam Harris, of course. Those are the horsemen. The four horsemen. Sam Harris, Dan Dennett, Christopher Hitchens, and Richard Dawkins. Four horsemen of the religious apocalypse. There's some Mark Twain in here too. There's H.P. Lovecraft. This is a great book for people who are maybe even agnostic. If you're religious, you're probably, unless you're very open-minded, you're probably not going to appreciate this. But this is great. There's all kinds of perspectives in here on atheism and agnosticism and religion, what religion's done to the minds of people. So there's Bertrand Russell in here too. This is I would highly recommend that one. That's a big one. It's a good one. Okay, maybe this should have been the psychology section, or maybe actually this probably should have been the science section. The Essential Chomsky. I didn't finish it. This is a tough one to get through, let's say. Chomsky is not the most entertaining writer. It's pretty dry stuff. Chomsky is most famous. He began as a linguistics professor, but of course he's jumped later on into politics. So he talks about hegemony and foreign policy in this book as well, but the beginnings of it are on his linguistics and psychology stuff. So anyways, I don't know. There's so many books. I've got so many books here. I don't know if I'll get back to it in a minute. It's crazy. Okay, this is a neat one. Albert Einstein, Ideas and Opinions. So this is a collected works Einstein did not write a book called Ideas and Opinions. This is a compiled work. This is 1954. So an author, let's see, who is it here? There's some people here that edited this. But this is basically a collection of pieces of Einstein's writings on many different topics. So on, for example, good and evil, on wealth, on education, about friends, about freedom, about pacifism, compulsory service in war, women in war, the Jewish people, on Germany, anti-Semitism, contributions to science, and so then it talks about some of his stuff, like E equals MC squared, of course. So this is, I like this book. I read this a few years ago. I thought this was a neat insight into Einstein's past his science, to see him as a person and his opinions. So it's a good one. Okay, here's another book by Chomsky and his political stuff. So on 9/11, I haven't read it. I think I got it for a couple bucks, and I needed a couple bucks for free shipping from Amazon or something, so I think I just grabbed this. So it's got a picture at the back there, but I don't know what his opinion on 9/11 is. There's all kinds of opinions on 9/11. Actually, 9/11 is 2 days from now, isn't it? So it's already been on the news. There's all kinds of remembrance stuff going on in the news right now. 2001 for that one. Okay, here's some older stuff. So, Studies in the Theory of Imperialism. This is edited by Roger Owen and Bob Sutcliff. This is 1872. So it says there's a Marxist theory of imperialism, critique of Marxist theories, industrial growth and early German imperialism. There's African stuff in here. Imperialism without colonies. Imperialism in the Third World. So French imperialism. Economic imperialism. So anyways, I have not read this. Imperialism and the Growth of Indian Capitalism. I haven't read this book. I just picked it up. Actually, I've had this book for a little while, but I haven't read it yet. Okay, so this is a book I'm actually reading right now. I realize it's been on my YouTube. On the left side, I don't know, maybe I have never mentioned it, but on the far left side of the YouTube page where it shows people's details, descriptions, and age, and blah, 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 I have been putting on there what I'm currently reading. So I've had this book on there for a little while, I think, but I'm still reading it, as you can see. So I'm maybe a quarter of the way in. But this is a book on, so it's called Liberal Fascism, The Secret History of the American Left, From Mussolini to the Politics of Meaning, by Goldberg. This is what year? 2007. So this book is actually about, let me see here, Mussolini, Hitler, Woodrow Wilson, Roosevelt. It's about fascism in general. And it's discussing fascism as if it was a leftist phenomenon, because normally fascism is considered a rightist. Although, I don't know why people use left and right anymore. It's meaningless. Like, what's left? Left is central planning, government, high government control. But then socialists, would socialists say that? And right is what? Right is usually considered very religious, social conservative. I don't know. It's just pointless. I think what we really should talk about is state control of either social or economic, and do that. So left wing is state control, and right wing is not state control. So far right would be, I guess, anarchy, and then libertarianism, and then perhaps fiscal conservatives, although conservatives are usually religious, and that's usually kind of distasteful. And then, I don't know what center would be, but then you get left stuff would be environmentalism, socialism, And then communism and then fascism, of course, is government control. They just don't. The only difference between communism and fascism is the fascists don't own the buildings, don't own the businesses, but they tell them what to do. Regulated societies are fascist. So that's why they sometimes talk about the United States turning into a fascist country because of all the regulations, as opposed to their fundamentals of liberty, which are being eroded slowly. So then they kind of stick the fascist label on the United States because of all the regulations and all that. So that's what that book is about. Okay, this is the last one for, what am I calling this? Miscellaneous? Political? It's sort of political, but it's sort of I actually got one more, but okay, this one's called Breaking the Spell by Dan Dennett. This one's about religion, and I actually have this one signed. I'll show you that just for fun. I actually have this one signed because he visited a university, or my university, so I got him to sign it. So this is actually I would say a very impartial examination of religion as a natural phenomenon, almost as a mental state of belief, as a mental state. And he uses empirical evidence and data and talks about belief and belief in belief. So it's actually really interesting. It was not, Dan Dennett is obviously an atheist, but it is, I thought it was impartial, an impartial look at religion and a look at the genesis of belief and faith. So essentially believing in things without evidence, and why it's a pervasive mindset or mental state. It has been for a long time. So I thought it's a pretty good book. I think for any audience, for any reader, it's a pretty good book. Okay, that commences the miscellaneous section. I think I'll probably call it political, economic. Oh, actually, just one more. So this one is Ayn Rand's Answers. So I picked this up because after reading a lot of Ayn Rand's works, there's obviously lots of questions that comes up. There's only a few YouTube videos of her in talk shows such as, what's that old guy's name? I want to say Donnelly, but that's not right. It's something like that, though. There's only a few of her on YouTube actually being interviewed. So I wanted a book that she answers all kinds of questions, and that's what this one is. And actually, as well, she did an interview with Playboy. Now, this was like probably in the 60s or in the 50s, where Playboy wasn't really considered just pornography. It was actually kind of like the Rolling Stone magazine. They did interview people, and they did have they did interviews, and so they were writers as well. So you should check it out, though. Look up Ayn Rand, Playboy, and you'll find an interview that she did with them too. So okay, so next I will do, I guess, philosophy. I'll probably do philosophy next. So stay tuned for philosophy.